Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 10 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 11 of it, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Hive HQ. Naruto walked out of his room, decked in full Red X armor, and then down to the infirmary, to see a worried Jinx. She was looking down at a sleeping Blackfire. The alien princess was lightly snoring, but X noticed how pale she was, then thin sheen of sweat at her brow, and the dark rings around her eyes. What's wrong? Naruto questioned, and Jinx walked over and pulled him into the hall. She's really sick. Jinx said, and Naruto frowned while clenching his fists. How bad? He asked of the girl who looked into the room before turning back to face him. Iz thinks her armor was helping her survive the brunt of whatever is affecting her. She's been this way for well over a month from what he can tell. Her armor isn't just used for her powers anymore, it was the only thing keeping her from dying. She said cryptically, and Naruto leaned back into a wall and frowned. Do we have the supplies necessary to help her? He asked, and Jinx bit her lip. No. But the stuff we need is easy enough to steal from Star Labs with you as a diversion for the Titans. They work with aliens like Superman, so it's a pretty safe bet that they'd have the equipment needed to help Blackfire. But the real problem is we have no way of helping Blackfire. We don't know what she's got, or how an antidote would affect her, unless we had another Tamaranian around. Jinx said, then reminded, and you could see Naruto knitting his brow together deep in thought. Starfire is her sister, could she help? Naruto questioned, and Jinx blinked, then nodded her head. Close relatives often have the same blood type, and she and Blackfire are near identical physically, so yeah. But how are we going to contact her when we need you to be a diversion for the Titans so we can get the equipment? Jinx questioned, and Naruto nodded his head, then tilted to one side to look at Blackfire, and narrowed his eyes. I'm the one who beat the shit out of her. I'm probably the one who really damaged her armor, and I'll figure something out, even if it kills me. He said firmly, while Jinx gave him a look. You didn't cause this, temp. Her armor was nothing but a crutch. This still would have happened to her eventually, whether you beat her up or not. Jinx stated with a frown, while poking Naruto in the chest. Alright, but still we need to help her. Naruto stated, and Jinx nodded her head in agreement with the blonde boy. Did Giz find anything with those earphones, or that gem I gave him? Naruto then asked, and Jinx bit her lower lip. I never went to check on those things. She said, and Naruto walked down the halls with Jinx at his side. What happened to her anyways? Jinx asked, and Naruto narrowed his eyes. Someone by the name of Ravager was using her to attack the city. For what I don't know, seeing as the Titans were out of town at the time. Naruto explained, and Jinx frowned and thought. Ravager, why is that name so familiar? Jinx mumbled before shaking her head. Do you think we'll be able to get her some help? Jinx asked, and Naruto frowned beneath his skull mask, before looking to her. If we don't help her, who will? The Titans don't exactly have the equipment to help her, nor does any hospital in the city. He asked, then explained to the girl plainly, and Jinx frowned. The Titans have connections with Star Labs though, they could get help for her easier than we could. She offered, and Naruto nodded his head. And then throw her in jail. She's biologically too frail to be in a germy environment like that for too long, Jinx. The only one who would fight for her freedom would be Starfire and maybe Raven. The other three wouldn't understand how much of a handicap a weak immune system really is for her. Naruto explained, and Jinx let out a sigh before agreeing with the masked boy. Heroes never really think about what they're doing, do they? She commented, and Naruto shrugged his shoulders. They don't until they see who they've caught. Sometimes the run-of-the-mill thief they throw in jail is a father trying to feed his family. What do you do when you find a criminal who can't do anything else but be a criminal? That's one of the reasons that I'm not a hero anymore. Too many morals and rules you have to follow. Naruto explained, and Jinx blinked a couple times before looking at him strangely. You were a hero? She asked, and Naruto nodded his head. When? She asked, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Before you or the others met me. I was always trying to be a hero, to save people, and protect the ones I loved. Came to find out they were all lying to me, or in my ex-girlfriend's case, cheating on me with that team, Sasuke. Naruto explained, and Jinx plainly gawked at him for a moment. Someone would willingly cheat on you, for that pretty boy bastard? She asked incredulously, and Naruto nodded his head with a smirk at Sasuke's expense. He really liked Jinx. Who? Maybe I can hex her into outer space. Jinx offered with a grin, and Naruto formed a shadow clone. Okay, why did you make two of you? Jinx asked, and Naruto looked to the clone that groaned. Do I have two, Bosu? He questioned, and Naruto crossed his arms. Yeah, I'd rather not head all the way back to my room for a picture. He stated, and the clone muttered under his breath for a few moments before making a hand seal. Kage no Jutsu. The clone called out before a recreation of Sakura, now stood before a surprised Jinx. I hate this. The clone said with her voice, while Jinx walked up to the clone and then looked it over. She could pass off as my fucking sister or maybe even my twin. Jinx said with obvious surprise, and Naruto actually looked between them and blinked. Jinx and Sakura both had a scarily identical frame, height, and build. Jinx's face was also nearly identical save her slanted cat-like pink eyes, and the pink triangles under her eyes, and the fact her forehead wasn't as large as Sakura's. Jinx also kept her hair up in horns, and covering her brow, but it was obviously near the same length as Sakura's own. Jinx's hair was also a couple shades darker than Sakura's, and last the only defining feature that separated them beyond clothes, was Jinx's light gray skin. I never really noticed that before. Naruto lied while rubbing the back of his neck, having noticed when he first met Jinx, but never thought it wise to bring it up. Jinx however was looking at the clone disguised as his former girlfriend with annoyance. I bet he did notice, and that's why he doesn't notice that I like him when I meet her for real. I'll send that cheating no good pink-haired wait, I have pink hair. I bet she dyes hers. Jinx thought to herself with obvious annoyance, and Naruto cleared his throat to get her attention. Let's head on to see Giz now, he said before nodding to the clone, that gave a relieved sigh, before poofing out of existence. How do you shape-shift like that? Jinx asked and Naruto chuckled nervously. It's called a Kage-Henja shadow transformation because like Kage Bunshin, the transformation is solid. It's the only way I know how to do it. I actually recreated the technique on my own without even knowing it. Naruto explained, and Jinx made an O with her mouth before walking with him into Gizmo's lab to see the tiny terror dissecting the earphones. I've got good news and bad news, he said, surprising the two until they saw him smirk and point up. Looking up they saw a camera, and Naruto frowned when he then noticed a screen in front of Gizmo. Hey, why do you have to ruin my fun, Giz? He questioned with a frown and Gizmo snickered. Yeah well I don't need your ass sneaking up on me all the time, he countered, then turned serious as he held up one of the earphones. Anyways, these little babies are wired to a satellite link up, and bounced through half a dozen of them, so I can't find the damn source. I was able to figure out the frequency and found where that was coming from. I then had Kid go and check it out, but it was a dead end as well. Gizmo explained before dropping the earphone, then rubbed his face while Naruto frowned. What's the good news? He asked and Gizmo snorted. That was the good news, he said, and Jinx and Naruto looked to one another with worried expressions, then to Gizmo as he picked up the jewel that Blackfire had been wearing. This little sucker is the real bad news. It is a high-power focusing unit made to increase Blackfire's powers. But her armor wasn't designed for the amount this thing was putting out, and pretty much fried it, hence her current condition. Gizmo explained, and Naruto frowned to himself while recrossing his arms. Jinx looked more than a bit concerned herself. Is there any way to repair her armor then, Giz? The pink-haired luck charm questioned, and Gizmo snorted once more. Not in time to save her health. We need a way to isolate the damn virus, and we need some way of making sure nothing we give her will only make things worse. And as an added bonus, the only fucking place with any of the equipment I need is at Star Labs, he said cryptically, and Naruto nodded his head with a frown. How long would it take you guys to get to Star Labs and back? He asked, and Gizmo frowned to himself. Half an hour give or take, even with Kid's powers in use, he stated, and Naruto nodded his head before cupping his chin, and then narrowed his eyes. Alright. I'm going to head out to Wayne Incorporated to draw the kids' fire to me. That'll preoccupy them long enough for you guys to get the stuff. I'll just have to pull my punches more than I normally do, if I want it to drag on that long. Naruto mused to himself with a frown, and Jinx twitched slightly. It irked her that he was so tough, but played with everyone in order to amuse himself. What if they try to split up? Giz asked with a frown, and Naruto rolled his eyes. The Titans won't be able to take you all on with limited members. So long as I can keep at least Robin and Raven off your backs, you should do fine, Naruto said, knowing if he could get Raven to stay near him for like a minute, he could explain what the hell was really going on. Why Raven? I can understand Robin, but is Raven really that much of a threat? Jinx questioned, and Naruto nodded his head to her. Raven isn't physically strong, no, but her powers and keen mind more than make up for that. She's probably just as dangerous, if not more so, than Robin if you piss her off, Naruto explained, then lowered his arms and looked to Gizmo. How long do you need to get the others ready? He asked the bald genius, and Gizmo frowned and thought. I'd say 10 minutes to get them ready, and about a second for Kid to get us all there with his powers, Gizmo offered simply, and Naruto nodded his head, while calculating how long it'd take him to get to Wayne Incorporated, then draw the Titans over to him. Leave in 20 Giz, more than enough time for me to get into Wayne Incorporated, and draw the kids out while you and the others deal with Star Labs, Naruto said while Jinx looked at him incredulously. What about Starfire? How are you going to get her to willingly help us with Blackfire's condition? I didn't think they were really on the best of terms, the pink-haired girl questioned, then reminded the blonde, who merely smirked under his mask despite himself. I have my ways, besides blood is thicker than water, Starfire will help. But for now we should move out, Naruto said, then started to leave when Gizmo called out to him. What? Naruto asked impatiently, and Gizmo frowned towards him. Our team needs a name. I know it's probably not the best time for this, but seriously we need one. And a damn good one too, the tiny terror stated, then added, and Naruto thought for all of 10 seconds before nodding his head. What is a Titan? He questioned and Gizmo looked at him weirdly. A Titan is a mythological Greek giant that is on par with a god in terms of strength. Jinx answered and then blushed at the look from Gizmo. I took a couple ancient history classes. She offered with a slight pout while crossing her arms over her chest, and Naruto nodded his head. And where were some of those Titans banished to? Naruto questioned, having also taken that ancient history class, and Jinx raised a brow in thought before frowning. They weren't all banished to the same place. One was under a mountain, one held up the sky, one was bound to a rock, and others were punished and moved to other places for other reasons. She said with an intellectual tone, and Naruto nodded his head before chuckling. The most were sent to one place, however, including the mighty Kronos himself. He said, and Jinx still didn't get it, making him sigh. Tartarus. He said, and Jinx made an O with her mouth, before blinking and grinning at the name. Where the darkness the Titans were banished to, the other half of the goody teen Titans then. She mused to herself, and Naruto nodded his head with a light chuckle. What do you think, Giz? Tartarus work for you? She asked, and Gizmo nodded his head with a sly grin. Then I guess I only have one more thing to say. Naruto offered before clenching a fist and smirking towards his two partners in crime. Tartarus, move out. Wayne Incorporated. It was nighttime, the sky was clear of clouds, while the moon hung in the sky above. However, inside of the Wayne Incorporated building, Naruto crawled through a vent of the building before dropping down. Checking transmissions from Gizmo, he noted they were on their way to Star Labs, and rushed over to a guard and quickly knocked him out. Dragging him into a bathroom, Naruto then rushed into the main computer room and hit the alarm, then ran out of the control room, and down every hole, so the Titans would notice him. Well, if that doesn't get them here quicker than a Ancient Jutsu, I'll be extremely surprised. Naruto mused while running into an all-white room, and then turned to watch the door, while lowering himself into a lotus position, and folded his hands into his lap. Now I just have to play the waiting game. Naruto thought to himself, while closing his eyes, leaving himself fairly open to attack as he sat down waiting for the Titans. As he did, he began to ponder how he was going to make this up to Raven, moreover how he was going to get Starfire to believe him about Blackfire's condition. Starfire is trusting, but she isn't a fool. She won't trust me even if I did help her with Blackfire. But she does trust Raven. I need to get her to talk to Starfire. Naruto mused silently, then opened his eyes when he heard the door opening and saw the Titans before him. It's about damn time, kids. I was getting kind of bored just waiting for you to show up. A smirking Naruto quipped from his spot before then rising up to his feet and crossing his arms. Red X. Robin gritted out while Raven frowned, then closed her eyes and sent a mental message to the masked thief. What are you doing? First you stopped Blackfire, now you're trying to rob Wayne Incorporated. She asked, and Naruto blinked, before smirking to himself. Teen Titans, go. Robin called out in real time and the group lunged forward, Raven staying back for the most part. So you figured me out, Hakari-chan. He quipped and heard a mental snort from the girl. Naruto then dropped low in real time, sweeping Robin's legs out from under him, then throwing him over his shoulder, before flipping up into a kick to Cyborg's chin, and landing in a low crouch. It wasn't that hard, who else calls me that? Beyond that, Red X and Tempest both use skills and abilities that the other has. You both carry swords, and let's not forget Red X went out to stop Blackfire, not Tempest or Naruto. She reasoned, and Naruto chuckled lightly over the mental link. Back in real time, Naruto rolled out of the way as Starfire hurled numerous starbolts at the skull masked thief, though inwardly he noted it lacked any of the normal power, and easily blocked them with his gauntlets. All true, however, I have some seriously bad shit going down at my place. Blackfire is really sick, Naruto said, and Raven frowned visibly. Beast Boy then lunged at Naruto. The thief, nearly groaning as all he had to do was roll under the green teen, then fire a sticky axe at the boy, holding him down before he tried to escape from the red goop. How bad? She asked while Naruto slowly lowered back into a fighting position with Robin lunging at him with a roar. She might not make it, he said, and Raven's eyes bolted open in shock. Robin, however, was unaware of the chat as he pulled out a pair of bird earrings and then slammed them together, forming them into a broadsword with 2 edges, much to Naruto's shock. That's new, Naruto commented, and Robin smirked as Ace swung the blade at the thief, only for him to quickly dodge then flip back. I made it after you last used that sword of yours. I figured it's best to be prepared for any situation, Robin said with a smirk, while Naruto rolled out of the way of another slash, while pulling his own sword from his back. Really? I'm flattered, chuckles. You made that just to take on little old me. Naruto quipped with an obvious smirk in his tone, angering Robin further, and making Raven frown towards her boyfriend. Are you trying to piss him off? She questioned while looking around for something to throw at Naruto, noting he picked a room with little other than the floor tiles or walls around them she could try. Naruto wasn't able to answer her immediately as he blocked another slash from Robin, and both held then blades firmly against the others. When he gets angry, he gets sloppy, Naruto reasoned, and Raven blinked then rolled her eyes, wondering how everyone knew that but Robin. The girl then smirked to herself while reminding herself she couldn't appear to be staying out of the fight, and held up both of her hands. Azrath, Metrian, Zinthos. Raven then called out while flinging several of the tiles from the floor towards Naruto. The blonde cursed while rolling backwards, away from Robin as the tiles nearly hit him. Raven moved the tiles up quickly at this to avoid hitting Robin, and then brought them down towards Naruto. The Skull-masked thief inwardly cursed while dodging the barrage of tiles, then lunged at Raven. "Sorry about this, Card-chan," he thought to himself as he moved his left hand in front of Raven, and an X flew out to wrap around her head, making her glare at him. "I hope you know that I will get you for this," she said to the blonde thief while said thief flipped away from her, narrowly evading a shot from Cyborg's sonic cannon, as he then landed in another low crouch. "Yeah, I know, Card-chan. How about I give you a night on the town as payment? My treat," Naruto offered, and Raven rolled her eyes at her semi-boyfriend's rather odd sense of humor. Said blonde was currently evading a combo attack from Cyborg and Starfire. The girl was carrying the Tin Man, as he rained down a barrage of sonic waves towards the thief. Naruto eventually came to a wall, then smirked as he ran up the side of it, Cyborg gawking as he did so. "Holy shit, he really is a ninja," he exclaimed just as Naruto flipped off the side of the wall and fired an X at him, the X wrapping around his arms before Naruto then spun into a roundhouse to Starfire. This knocked Cyborg out of the alien princess's arms and to the ground, while the girl herself spun in the air for a bit, while Naruto landed in a crouch and looked towards a snarling Robin. Well, your offer sounds nice. How is that any different from our usual Saturdays?" Raven quipped while pretending to struggle with the X on her mouth. She knew it was essentially futile to try and remove it herself, anyways, seeing as it had a form of glue on the underside that hurt like hell when they peel it off. Naruto chose to wait to answer as he dodged a slash from Robin's Birdisword, or whatever the hell he wanted to call it, then fired an X at the boy wonder, and flipped backwards at the same time. Robin merely rolled to the side to evade the X however, and then looked at Naruto with thinly veiled fury. "Because usually I don't pay for everything, and you get to choose what we do," Naruto offered while Raven actually considered it. Back outside of their little conversation, Robin frowned towards Naruto as the thief Nukenin rose up to his feet with a slight chuckle in his throat. "Should we really be talking like this in the middle of a battle?" Raven questioned seriously, and Naruto thought about it while cracking his neck and holding his sword with both hands. "Probably not, but it makes things way more interesting," he offered before lunging forward and swinging his sword at Robin, the two teens' blades coming together with a clang before then slashed, their swords grinding into one another as Naruto kicked out at Robin. The boy wonder flipping back to avoid his attack. "But it does, but you're fighting me and my friends," she admitted, then reminded while Starfire flew down at Naruto and threw her fist at him with a powerful punch. Naruto quickly blocked the red-haired girl's attack however with his gauntlets, skidding back, then spun into a roundhouse kick. Starfire was sent flying back, and then found an X coming at her, and attaching her to the wall, making her pout as it happened to her yet again. "Come on, Card-chan, nothing about our lives is simple. Why should our relationship be any different?" Naruto reminded, and Raven reluctantly conceded to the masked thief's point on that front, and then decided to consider his offer for Saturday. However, back in the fight between Naruto and the Titans, Robin and he were the only two still able to move, let alone fight, as they stared one another down. "You're using more of the functions of your suit than your own abilities tonight, why?" the boy wonder noted, then questioned with a frown, and Naruto merely shrugged his shoulders in response. "Not everyone wants to show off their special little powers all the time, kid. I've got to keep some things a surprise for you Titans, or our little rendezvous will start to get boring." Naruto quipped and could easily see the scowl on Robin's face, as he then lunged forward at Naruto, the blonde grinning as he spun his sword and their blades locked together once more. A clash of swords. Somehow this seems appropriate. Robin quipped, and Naruto chuckled in his throat, before spinning his blade to the side, knocking Robin off balance, then quickly ducking into a sweet kick. Robin had to roll to the side, in order to evade. "Really now, why do you say that, kid?" Naruto questioned while flipping the blunt side of his blade, to lean against his shoulder. "Not sure actually, it just seems like it," Robin said as he jumped into a slash, bringing his sword down on Naruto, who easily blocked, then shoved him back. The boy wonder flipped in the air and landed in a crouch however, before lunging forward. The boy wonder swung his sword once more as Naruto quickly used his left gauntlet to block the sword, then kicked him in the chest, knocking him back. "This is getting old," chuckles Naruto commented, seeing as it truly was. Robin's sword style was practically non-existent after all. All he knew was to swing the damn thing, probably having less to no training with one. In response, Robin got back to his feet and looked at Naruto with his eyes narrowing. "Oh really? I'll just have to change that now then, won't I?" Robin quipped right back at the thief, then actually smirked as he pulled a pair of black knee pads from his belt, then put them on his knees, and they shifted open, locking around his legs tightly. The boy wonder then pushed in on the buckle of his utility belt, and it started to glow brightly. "What the hell?" Naruto wondered to himself as Robin then stabbed his sword into the ground for a moment, while holding his arms to his sides, as a glowing white circuit-like pattern started to cover his boots, vest, cape, and mask. "Like it? I figured since you added armor to your suit, a little extra protection can really go a long way." Robin said his plates of armor extended from his belt down his thighs, dark red plates, then seemed to shift out of his vest and down his arms over his green sleeves to reach into his gloves, while black bands then reached up out of his cape and curved up over his lower face. The cape itself now having something of a Batman-like look with the numerous jagged edges as it stretched slightly behind him. Copying dear old Batman now, kid. Naruto quipped upon seeing the cape finish its transformation, inwardly wondering how he did that. Robin's masked eyes narrowed at this, before he pulled his sword out of the ground and spun it in his hands, before holding it with both hands, and crouching down low to the ground. No? Robin then said darkly, before crouching down then lunging forward, jets activating on his boots, while he used the cape as a glider much to Naruto's shock. Holy fucking shit. That is really new. Naruto exclaimed in his mind, while Robin then sliced with his two blades and the thief quickly evaded. I didn't think you ever used real weapons, kid. Naruto commented seriously, and Robin turned to glare at him, while slowly crouching down low with his sword held firmly in both hands at his side. I don't, this is designed to stun enemies with a short burst of electricity. He said simply, and Naruto inwardly breathed a sigh of relief. As far as obsession goes, Robin and Sasuke are pretty close to one another. But unlike Sasuke, Robin still keeps his morals intact. The blonde though to himself with a slight smirk on his lips. Did you actually think Robin was going to go cutthroat on you? And as for an answer to your earlier offer goes, yes, I expect to see you Saturday. Raven questioned then said, and Naruto frowned while flipping his sword back and into its sheath. No, but I did kind of think it was odd that the kid is using a bladed weapon. Also, I need you to bring Starfire to our usual meeting place tonight. Naruto said while unlocking the scallops from the sides of his gauntlets and taking a stance. Now he's copying Batman. Robin quipped and Naruto rolled his eyes. What do you need Starfire for? Raven questioned while Naruto and Robin circled one another, the fully armored boy wonder glaring at the skull-masked thief. The two then lunged forward, Robin swinging his blade, while Naruto blocked and diverted the sword with the scallops of his gauntlets. Blackfire needs help, she's got a pretty serious illness, and we wanted to isolate the illness, then use the blood to see if any antidote we make will make her better or worse. We think that since Starfire and Blackfire are sisters, it should work with them. Naruto explained in his mind, while Robin jumped into a kick, the skull-masked thief rolling with the attack to the side, and glaring towards the boy wonder. Alright, I'll see what I can do, Naruto. Raven offered while Naruto inwardly nodded and kept checking his scanner for Gizmo's transmission, that they had the equipment from Star Labs. You're awfully quiet now, X. Robin said while looking at the skull-masked thief who chuckled lightly to himself. If I didn't know any better, kid, I'd almost think you like me insulting you. He quipped and Robin lunged forward with a roar, swinging his sword at the thief once more. Naruto used his scallops to block the attacks easily, then finished with a palm strike to the masked vigilante's chest, sending him skidding back. Kid, I have got to admit, I'm impressed with the new addition to your suit, but Naruto said with a shake of his head, then held up a finger and vanished. He then reappeared behind a surprised Robin who turned in time for Naruto to slam a fist into his face. Robin gritted his teeth while skidding back, the thin armor taking the brunt of the damage, before he flipped to his feet and glared at the thief. The boy wonder then activated his jet boots once more, and spun into a rocket-powered roundhouse to Naruto's head, sending him flying back, and into a wall with a grunt, Raven visibly wincing. That had to hurt. She noted, and Naruto groaned while pulling himself out of the wall, and thanking Kami that he wore a helmet. What was your first clue? Naruto quipped and Raven shook her head, while Naruto held his arms out as Robin crouched. You're not so badly wounded that your wit is dulled, I see. She commented, and Naruto chuckled lightly in his throat, while Robin activated his jets once more, slamming into Naruto then flying up and through the roof. Ouch, that really had to hurt. Raven thought to herself, before running over to help Cyborg. The roof. Robin and Naruto came through the roof with Naruto having taken the brunt of the blow, groaning to himself. I really need to thank Gizmo for making me a helmet for this suit. He thought to himself while getting to his feet and glaring at Robin as the boy wonder got up as well. Kid, you are seriously taking this too far. Naruto said while rubbing the back of his neck with a light groan, and Robin frowned. Why did you stop Blackfire? He questioned with a frown, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Now he asks me that. He wondered to himself, idly wondering if Robin had an inferiority complex, then turned serious. I was hired to do a job. Shinobi rule number 4, never leave a job unfinished, no matter what it is. Naruto stated simply with a smirk, and Robin frowned to himself. And what is that supposed to mean? How's your job not finished? Robin questioned, and Naruto was silent. He didn't need the kid getting involved with him and the others. Heroes weren't supposed to cavort with villains like them after all. Maybe I'll tell you someday, Chuckles. Naruto offered while getting into a crouch, which Robin then took as a sign to prepare, and crouched with his sword held horizontally before him. This fight is taking way too long. Naruto mused while the scallops folded back into his gauntlets, and the skull-masked thief took a few calming breaths. Give up and it won't take any longer, X. Robin quipped, and Naruto chuckled before reaching into his kunai case, and pulled out 4 3-pronged kunai. Nah, I have a special technique to end this fight, kid. And as luck would have it, you'll be the first to feel this one since my dad died. Naruto said before jumping into the air and throwing the kunai, Robin easily evading them as they landed in a diamond shape around him. Was it? Robin questioned, clearly unimpressed, and Naruto smirked. Not a chance. He said, then vanished with a low humming sound to Robin's shock. Soon the hum came back as Axe appeared behind him in a flash of yellow light. The thief slammed his foot into Robin's head quickly, then vanished with another low hum. Appearing in front of him, he swung his foot upwards, knocking Robin back. Axe then vanished before appearing at the right above him, where he slammed his fist into Robin's jaw. Vanishing once more, Axe appeared at his left, and flipped as he brought his foot down on Robin in an axe kick. However, what was truly frightening to Robin was that all of this happened within a fraction of a second as he suddenly landed on the ground and Naruto flipped to the ground in a crouch. Naruto then vanished once more with that same humming sound as he appeared above Robin and threw him into the air, then tossed the 4 kunai into the air, and vanished with a hum once more. Appearing in the air with a flash of yellow, Naruto then moved like lightning, literally blurring into a wild flurry of attacks on Robin as the boy wonder couldn't seem to keep up with his eyes. Soon, however, Naruto appeared above the boy, and brought both fists down on his back, sending him into the ground. Seemingly floating in the air for a moment, Naruto quickly gathered his kunai, then threw one to the side, and used his technique once more to appear above it. Infiltrating no jutsu. Naruto said as he picked up the last kunai and placed all 4 into his kunai case, while Robin groaned in pain, his sword having fell to the side while he looked up to glare towards Naruto. Standing up, the blonde thief crossed his arms and walked over to a glaring Robin. Geez kid, don't look at me like that too much, or your face is going to freeze. Naruto commented, and Robin gritted his teeth in pain as his whole body felt he had just been hit by a freight train. How did you do that? Robin gritted out while trying to reach for his sword, and Naruto chuckled lightly in his throat before crouching down and looking into his masked eyes. Everyone has their secrets, kid, besides you should feel honored. That was only a trial run with that particular technique, Naruto said with a humorous tone, and Robin's eyes widened in disbelief. Trial? It's not even perfected yet, he demanded, and then grimaced in pain while holding his sides, and Naruto nodded his head. Unfortunately, no. My dear old dad never figured a way around using those kunai to use the technique at all. I'm trying to figure out a way to use it without them in order to truly perfect it, Naruto explained, then shook his head. Maybe I could use you as a practice dummy for the real thing as well, kid. He offered while Robin grit his teeth and growled at the thief, slowly pushing himself up. Naruto then noticed an all-clear message from Gizmo, and chuckled lightly to himself. Looks like my work here is done, kid, see you later, Naruto said with a mock salute as he pressed the button on his belt and vanished into thin air, while Robin got shakily to his feet and gnashed his teeth together. We'll see about that, Axe, next time I will bring you down, Robin thought to himself, then grunted as he walked away and into the building while holding his side with a pained grimace. Titan's Tower. The Titans were within their tower's common room, with Cyborg sulking as he played one of his games, Beast Boy sitting in the kitchen, as Star had to cut his hair to get some of the X goop out of it, Robin on the computer looking for something, and last was Raven, sitting in a lotus position before the stairs and waiting for Star to be alone. Dude, X kicked our butts, and he messed with my hairdo, again, Beast Boy cried out in outrage, while Starfire was cutting globs of red goop out of his hair. However, Raven decided that Beast Boy was a little incorrect with his statement, so she decided to be fair to her boyfriend of 3 weeks, and correct the changeling. Technically, it was Robin who did it the first time, Raven reminded with a slight smirk, and Beast Boy blinked, then glared at Robin, who gave an apologetic look to the green changeling. True, but now the new Red X has gone from minor thief to serious threat, Robin said with a frown while rubbing his still sore ribs from the pounding he had personally obtained from the thief. Wasn't he always a threat? Cyborg quipped from his place, and Robin frowned. Before he didn't randomly attack us, while the hive steals from Star Labs, Robin reminded, and Cyborg cupped his chin. Yeah, but what do they need medical equipment for? He questioned with obvious confusion, and Robin blinked then frowned to himself. I don't know, Robin admitted before trailing off and sighing. I need some coffee, he muttered while getting up, rubbing his temples with a frown and walking into the kitchen. Friend, Beast Boy, please stop with the squirming. It is most difficult to be cutting this sticky red stuff from your hair while you are not moving, Starfire pleaded while holding the changeling's shoulders down. Star, I can't help it. You're taking my hairdo away, and it'll be weeks before it grows back, Beast Boy said, while Raven slapped her face and sighed, before holding a hand towards the green bean and holding him down with her powers. Thank you, friend, Raven, Star offered cheerfully, and Robin smirked as Beast Boy pouted while his hair was cut apart. Meanwhile, Robin had finished his coffee and took a sip, watching his team while frowning to himself. X didn't even hurt any of them, only me, and only because I took it seriously, With Raven he only had to cover her mouth. Cyborg wasn't going to be much help without his arms. Starfire was pinned to a wall, and Beast Boy was gooped to the floor. First thing X didn't bother trying to hurt them. He just wanted to distract us, so the Hive could steal that equipment. But why do they need that equipment in the first place? Robin wondered to himself, then walked back over to one of the main computers, and opened up the console screen. "There you are, my friend. I hope I have managed to repair your damaged hair," Starfire said cheerfully. In Cyborg, Robin, and Raven looked towards the changeling, seeing Starfire had managed to make a shorter version of his normal hair. "Thanks, Stare," Beast Boy said while looking in a mirror, then put it on the kitchen counter and walked off, past Raven and into the tower. "Little dude is taking this pretty hard," Cyborg said simply, and Robin frowned. "How would you feel knowing you were taken out first, and with the equivalent of gum no less?" Robin asked of his metallic friend, who grimaced. "Like a fly stuck to the bottom of someone's shoe," he mused, and Robin blinked. That was actually a very good description of what happened to Beast Boy. As the boys had this little chat, Raven stood up and walked over to where Starfire was cleaning the green hairs from the floor. "Here." Raven sighed out. Using her powers she easily cleaned the hairs up, and Starfire smiled to her female friend. "Thank you, Raven," she said, and Raven leaned close to the girl. "We need to talk," she said, and Starfire raised a brow, before Raven walked off and she floated after her friend out of the commons room. "What is the matter, friend Raven? Did something happen between you and your friend who is a boy?" Starfire questioned innocently of the younger girl, while they continued walking through the tower, and Raven inwardly twitched. "No. He and I are just fine, Starfire," Raven said with a slight blush, and Starfire smiled brightly to her friend. "I am most joyous to hear that," Starfire replied, and Raven frowned before looking around for someone, namely Beast Boy, to be listening, and then sighed. "X gave me a message," she said, and Starfire blinked. "What? And why do you not give this message to friend Robin?" she asked of the violet-eyed sorceress, and Raven frowned. "It was a message for you about Blackfire. She's really sick," Raven said, and Starfire's eyes bolted open, and she began to shake. "Starfire?" Raven questioned, and saw the unshed tears in the girl's eyes. "My sister, she has a weak immune system. If she is sick with even the lightest of illnesses, it could be dangerous to her," she said simply, shocking Raven, who couldn't really believe that Blackfire, tough as nails, queen of the galaxy, could have that kind of weakness. However, she decided it didn't matter. While Starfire was obviously torn up about this. "Starfire, is something else wrong?" Raven questioned, and Starfire nodded her head, while looking to her feet. "I believe it may be my fault if she is sick. When we sent her to Centauri prison, I did not know of her condition. The Centauri are brutal and ruthless law keepers. Their prisoners are treated worse than slaves. But I had believed that since she was a princess they might be easier on her. I fear that was not the case," Starfire reported softly, and Raven's eyes widened in shock. "Oh?" Raven said while inwardly grimacing. It wasn't just Starfire's fault in that case. It was the entire team's fault. "Friend, why did the Red X wish to tell me my sister was sick?" Starfire questioned, and Raven sighed. "The Hive and he are trying to help her. That's the reason for the medical equipment they took. But they need a healthy Tamaranian's blood in order to isolate what's making her sick and devise something to help her," Raven explained, and Starfire made an O with her mouth. "Then I will help. Blackfire's life has been most hurtful to her, being what she is. I will not let my sister down. She is my family, no matter how mean and cruel she acts," Starfire said with one fist clenched and her eyes glowing brightly, Raven smiling at the alien princess's words. "Then hang on, Starfire," Raven said while swinging her cloak, the two girls vanishing into the shadows. As they did, the two soon reappeared on top of a bookstore. Raven, looking around, spotted Naruto leaning back into the entrance to the roof. "Sorry I'm late," Raven offered to the blonde thief, and Naruto frowned under his mask, then stood up straight with his arms at his side. "Blackfire took an abrupt turn for the worst. I had to use some of my healing techniques just to stabilize her. We need to move now." With that, Naruto walked over to the two and placed his hands on their shoulders before they all vanished. The three then reappeared in Tartarus's infirmary, Blackfire on a bed with her armor removed, her black clothing still on however. And as soon as Starfire saw how pale her older sister was, she gasped. "Sister," Starfire called as she bolted over to the girl and held her older sister's hand in her own. "Will she be alright?" Starfire asked with a trembling voice, and Naruto frowned. "We can't lie, we're not sure," Naruto said, then tapped on the door to the room behind them, and it opened to show Jinx standing in the hallway with her arms crossed. "I'll never know how you managed to arrange all this shit," she said with a shake of her head while walking into the infirmary, and Raven kept her mouth shut about her, and he dating. She knew that if it got out to Starfire, hell would be brought down onto her at the tower. Either by a furious Robin, an annoyed Cyborg, a teasing Beast Boy, or even the ever-helpful Starfire wanting to help her with her dates or clothes or something. Plainly she didn't want any of that. "Jinx, where's Giz at?" Naruto asked, and Jinx sighed. "He'll be back soon. He's trying to see if he can cook up a way to fix her armor faster, but it's not looking too good. Also, getting her out of that armor in the first place was a real bitch." Jinx said then added, before glaring at the thief who chuckled nervously. You owe me big time for all this shit. She then stated while poking the thief in the chest, and Raven smirked at the two before turning serious. Exactly what's wrong with her? Raven asked while walking over to look at Blackfire with Starfire. We're not sure exactly. Which is why you're here, Starfire. We need to check your blood to see if we can isolate the virus, then cook up an antivirus for her. Naruto explained while crossing his arms, and the already frazzled nerves of Starfire seemed to fray even more as she bit her lower lip and began to twist the bed sheets in her hands. Jinx then cleared her throat, and the alien princess looked to the pink-haired girl to see her motioning to a second bed. Starfire, could you lay down here so we can take the blood? You might feel a bit woozy after we take what we need. Jinx asked, and Starfire nodded while walking over to the bed and lying down. You do have the same blood type as Blackfire, right? Jinx then questioned, and Starfire nodded her head to the other girl. Most Amaranians do. She offered, and Jinx blinked then shook her head. I don't even want to know. Jinx said while Naruto fished a couple of syringes out of one of the drawers in the room and handed them to Jinx and Raven. You don't want to do this? Raven asked, and Naruto shivered. Bad memories involving needles. He said simply while thinking of Haku Senbone mostly, and Raven raised a brow before she and went to find a vein on Blackfire, Jinx doing the same. As they did, Gizmo walked into the room with a scowl until he saw Starfire and gave a sigh of relief. I don't know how you do it, and I plainly don't care, just get out of my way. Gizmo said while looking to Naruto, who merely shrugged then stepped to one side. Gizmo then saw Raven and Jinx finishing with their own work and walked over to them and held his hands out. Alright, hand those over. Gizmo ordered, and Jinx and Raven both looked to one another then glared at Gizmo as they did. The tiny terror then walked over to a couple of machines to get to work, placing the blood into a pair of beakers, and then taking some out of Blackfire's, and putting it into a microscope, where he then looked inside of it. As the tiny terror did this, a very worried Starfire lay back with her hands wrenching her skirt. The bed was so she could try to relax. Huh? Raven asked Jinx slowly, and the girl nodded her head, while Naruto leaned into a wall. Raven saw this then looked at Blackfire with a frown before sighing. We should get out of here, Gizmo needs to work. She said, and Jinx nodded before both girls looked to Starfire. I wish to remain here and watch my sister, please. The normally perky alien said softly while watching her sister. Jinx and Raven both looked to one another and nodded before walking over to Naruto, grabbing him by his arms, and then dragging him out of the room. Hey. What the fuck? He questioned, and Raven slapped the back of his head. No swearing in front of or around Starfire. We have enough trouble with our waiter at Piano Pizza, forgetting that. She stated with a frown, and Naruto twitched while Jinx opened the door, and they left Gizmo to his own devices. About damn time those clutch heads left. I can't think right with so many people around. Gizmo muttered under his breath while working on finding and isolating this virus of Blackfire's. Then again, I'm not trained for helping with this kind of shit. This is Seymour's gig. Gizmo then muttered under his breath while blinking and slapping his face. Pulling out his hive communicator, he then tuned it to Seymour's frequency with a frown. Hello? Seymour questioned, and Gizmo smirked. I need you to head to the infirmary, Seymour. Blackfire's still sick, and you and Private were the only ones trained with any medicinal skills. Gizmo said quietly, and Seymour agreed, sounding unusually serious as the connection cut, and Gizmo gave a sigh of relief while rubbing his face. It looked like it was going to be a long day. Elsewhere. Why are you two dragging me? Naruto demanded as his girlfriend and best friend dragged him down the halls of the base. So you don't get his Gizmo's way. They said at the same time, blinked, and then looked at one another strangely. I don't think we've ever been properly introduced. I'm Jinx. Jinx offered, and Raven nodded her head before answering. Raven. She said, and both then dragged Naruto into the equivalent of a gym, and Raven stopped to look around. The room was about 10 feet high, and 20 feet all around, and in the shape of a square. It had black tiles of some sort with green grid lines everywhere, and different poles and bars at the sides. Okay, why are we here? Raven asked while looking around, and Jinx smirked. Because this is Temp's favorite room besides his bedroom. Jinx offered to the other girl while Naruto rolled his eyes and crossed his arms. Then is it me, or does Gizmo watch that Star Trek show too much? Raven asked while looking around, and Jinx snickered. I said the same thing when I saw Temp's private training room for the first time. Jinx offered with a nod of her head, and Naruto smirked to himself. Activate program Konoha 45H. He said, and the room shimmered, Raven's eyes widening as the room changed shape to a strange room with wooden floors and walls, a large desk in front of them with tons of paperwork on it, pictures on the walls with bookcases and knickknacks, a couch to one side, a chair before and behind the desk, as well as a large window, showing a mountain range with 5 faces cut into it. Where is this? Raven asked while walking into the room, releasing X as she did, with Jinx looking around with some confusion as well. X chuckled at this, and extricated his arm from Jinx, before walking over and sitting down on the chair behind the desk, smirking as he then lifted his legs, and crossed them on the desk. This, ladies, is the Hokage's office back home. Naruto announced, and Raven made an O with her mouth while Jinx nodded, both knowing a little about his past. So this is some of his home. They both thought, and Raven went over to the window and managed to open it, her eyes widening as she saw the village he was from, or rather how damn vast it was. This isn't a village, it's more like a city, she thought to herself, and Jinx then sat on the desk while watching the sorcerers. So what do you think? Better than anything you Titans got? Jinx questioned with a smirk, and Raven turned to give the pink-haired luck charm and annoyed frown. It's better for some scenarios like training to keep things from being destroyed, Raven admitted, then thought they could really use one of those seeing as they did cause a lot of collateral damage. But what else is it good for? Raven then asked, and Naruto actually smirked under his mask. Computer. Activate program modder T78 and pause. He sat in the room, shifted once more, changing to a dark cavern with Jinx falling from the desk and muttering under her breath, only to look up and shiver. Standing before them was a man, as tall as X, and dressed in an all-black outfit with armor over his arms, chest, and thighs, black gloves covering his hands with grey leg warmers over his shins and calves curving down under his black sandal boots. A ring was also placed onto one of his fingers, with a long black cloak over his shoulder, with a red cloud on the front and black interior. The hood was drawn up concealing his hair, while an orange spiral mask covered his face, that left only the right eye to see though in shadow. Who is this guy? Jinx asked with a shudder, and Naruto frowned. One of the programs I spar with. The person is originally named Uchiha Madara, the original Uchiha clan leader, Naruto said simply while glaring at the man, even though it was technically only a program. So why did you make this thing? Raven asked, and Naruto shrugged. Basically, I wanted to show you how it can be useful for other situations. Like recreating past enemies, so you can train to beat them. That's what I've been doing with Madara team here for the past few weeks at least. Naruto offered, and Jinx got up, then walked over to Madara and poked him, sighing when he didn't move. Is he really that dangerous? She asked, and Naruto took a grave tone. I've never beaten him without going all out, and I usually have to pause the program before I damage the room, Naruto admitted with a twitch, and Jinx and Raven both looked at the program with wide eyes then shuddered. Remind me to never meet this guy in a dark alley, Jinx murmured, and Naruto rolled his eyes. Computer, activate program Chunin 32 and pause. Naruto then sat, and the room shimmered, before changing once more. Now they were on a long wooden bridge over a massive gorge, a forest in front, and behind them while the drop, while fake, made Jinx uneasy, with a snake-like man before them. The man was pale, so pale his skin almost seemed white as marble. He had long dark hair to contrast this, however, as it hung into his sharp face, with a pair of yellow eyes with thin slitted pupils like a snake, with sharp features and a smirk on his lips. Purple tribal markings were around his eyes, curling up at the tips, and then down at his nose, a pair of strange earrings just visible. The man wore a pair of black pants with the ankles and shins taped down into a pair of black sandals, a black undershirt with a scarf-like collar, a short-sleeved tan tunic-like shirt over that reached to his knees, and last was the thick purple rope he had tied around his waist. He makes me look like I have a nice tan, both Jinx and Raven thought at the same time before shivering at the thought. Those eyes give me the creeps, Jinx said with a shiver, and Raven raised a brow. You have the same eyes, only pink, she stated, and got an annoyed glare from the girl in response. It's not how they look, it's just something about them is really unsettling, Jinx said, and didn't even mention how that little smirk the man had on his lips just seemed to really freak her out. Raven also looked and shivered at the eyes. They did have something unsettling about them, a hidden madness of some sort, the kind that was similar to people like the Joker, people who didn't care about anything but their own ambition, people who let nothing, not even morals, stand in their way. Yeah, his eyes are kind of creepy, Naruto admitted as he walked over to stand in front of the fake Orochimaru, and shivered when he could swear the smirk on his face widened just slightly, even though the program was frozen. Can you change this? He's really starting to creep me out, Jinx questioned, then said with a shiver towards the man, and Naruto nodded his head. Computer, activate program Konoha 11H. Naruto said, and the scene changed. They were now on the monument that Raven had seen earlier, with a clear view of all of Konoha, the sun slowly rising on the horizon, a forest behind them with a path back down to the ground over to the side. Whoa, Jinx said, and walked over to the edge of the monument and looked over the city. This was your home? She asked while turning to Naruto, the blonde thief merely walking next to her to look out over the hologram village. Sort of, he said softly, while memories of how often he came to this spot returned, a smile coming to his lips, as this was the only place in all of Konoha he ever truly felt safe and comfortable. Would you make this scene? Raven asked, and Naruto rubbed the back of his neck with one hand. I used to come up here as a kid, he said, then crossed his arms behind his head with a smile under his mask. Whenever I was sad or confused, I'd come up here just to think. It was the only place besides the Hokage's office or Ramen I ever felt wanted and safe, Naruto admitted, and Jinx gave him a look before sitting down with her legs crossed, enjoying a gentle breeze before blinking. There's even a breeze, She asked, and Naruto nodded with a chuckle, before sitting down as well, Raven following him, and admitting the spot on top of the monument was very calming in some way. Is made this room, he's a perfectionist and had to make everything perfect, so when I wanted scenes of my home, he had me describe them right down to the smell. Naruto explained, and Jinx sniffed the air and grinned. Sakura blossoms? She asked, and Naruto pointed to one side, and Jinx turned to see a large patch of sakura trees. It's calming. I kind of wish I had a place like this to meditate in the morning. The smell of the sea is nice, and the tower is my home, but... Raven started, and Naruto nodded his head, knowing what she meant. It's not the same as having a place all to yourself. With the tower you have to share. With a place like this, you can be all alone or bring friends when you want to share the view. Naruto explained, and Jinx looked to Raven, who nodded her head, then sighed with her eyes closed. Think Blackfire's doing any better? Jinx wondered, and Naruto cupped his chin. With Giz helping her? I don't doubt it. He said simply, then looked to Raven, who opened a single eye to look at him. What? Raven questioned, and Naruto gave her a look, before speaking in his mind to her. Don't you think we should be honest to at least my friends about our relationship? He questioned, and Raven shifted uncomfortably as Jinx looked at the rising sun with an oddly peaceful expression. Well, what if Starfire finds out? She'd blurt it out to the others and I'd have hell on earth at home. Raven asked, then reminded, and Naruto frowned. He knew she wasn't ashamed of him, but Robin would give her hell about them. I never said you have to tell Starfire, but Jinx is my best friend, and you two seem to get along, so maybe we can tell her. Naruto said, and Raven frowned and thought, while Jinx touched Naruto's arm. What's that? She asked while pointing to a large building near the back of the city, and Naruto smiled. That's the Shinobi Academy where I went to school. He explained, and Jinx made an O with her mouth before looking back over the village. Ismo is really good at holograms. She said, and Naruto nodded his head in agreement, while Raven sighed softly. Something wrong? Jinx asked the other gray-skinned girl, who blushed slightly, thankful that her HUD hid it. Not really. She said, then sighed to herself. You sure you want her to know? Raven asked, and Naruto rolled his eyes. What's the worst that could happen? He asked her, and Raven gave him a look. You could be thrown from their team, or even lose their trust. She offered, and Naruto frowned to himself. They won't. I know them well enough to know that the guys wouldn't even care. Jinx might, but she's always been way too serious for her own good. Naruto countered with a smirk, and Jinx looked at Raven with confusion written on her face. Okay, why are you staying so quiet? Jinx asked, and Raven sent a pleading look to Naruto, the blonde taking some pity on her as he cleared his throat. Jinx, you remember asking me about my girlfriend, right? Naruto questioned, and Raven felt a flare of jealousy go through Jinx. I have the strangest feeling that me and her are going to be at war soon. Raven thought to herself with a frown, while Jinx smiled to Naruto and nodded her head. Still want to meet her? Naruto asked, and Jinx gave a somewhat creepy grin in response. Of course, I do. Why wouldn't I want to meet her? Jinx asked while she was growling on the inside. Meet her, then hex her all the way to the moon. She thought to herself, and Naruto nodded his head, then reached up and removed his helmet. Temp, what are you? She started, only for Naruto to reach over and pull Raven into a kiss once his helmet was off, the sorceress blushing a burning crimson once he released her, and grinned to his friend. Wait, then you mean that you and she are? Jinx asked while pointing to them, and Naruto nodded his head with a smirk. Jinx then actually looked Raven up and down and mentally twitched. Well, at least I know my skin doesn't put him off, though she's a little more curvy than I am. Jinx mused with a frown, and Naruto poked the pink-haired girl in the head. What? She asked while looking at him, and he raised a brow. Are you okay? You were kinda staring at Card-chan for a bit there. Naruto said simply, and Jinx gave a smile to the blonde before answering. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. She started, then grabbed him by the front of his suit, and dragged his face close to hers. Now then, are you nuts? She demanded, and Raven sighed, having known this was going to happen. You're dating one of the Titans. She's the fucking enemy and you're dating her. Are you stupid, or just plain old crazy? Jinx demanded, and Naruto grinned sheepishly to the girl, while Raven had an I told you so look on her face. Calm down, Jinx, Card-chan isn't that bad. He said while holding his hands up in a placating manner, and Jinx twitched violently all over. She's a damn Titan dipshit. She shouted at the blonde, who looked to Raven for help only to find she now had a book out. Traitor. He thought in her direction, and she looked at him over her book with a raised brow. I told you this would happen. She reminded while returning to her book. Jinx, calm down, she's not all that bad, and really she's fun to be around. You think so too if you'd hang out with her sometime. Naruto said, and Raven blinked, then found her cloak grabbed by Jinx, and both she and Naruto looked from one another to the fuming pin cat holding them hostage. You? Jinx then said while pulling on Raven's cloak, and the girl raised a brow. You and I are going to be meeting back here soon. And when we do, we are having a very long talk. Jinx said, and Raven shivered for some reason, while Naruto noticed a beeping coming from his helmet and put it back on. A port? Naruto stated, and Raven blinked. He's like Robin when he wants to be. She said, and Jinx snorted. You have no idea. She said, then blinked and glared at the girl. Temp, we got Blackfire stable, and she's resting now. No more sporadic heat flashes or heavy breathing. I think it's time for Bird Girl to take Sunshine here home. Gizmo responded and Naruto nodded his head in agreement. Biz, managed to stabilize Blackfire, she's sleeping, and Gizmo thinks you and the princess should head on home. We'll look after Blackfire in the meantime. Naruto said and Raven nodded her head while both looked at Jinx to let them go, then crossed her arms over her chest. Computer, deactivate all holo programs. Naruto then said as the room shifted back into the green and black room it had started out as. The blonde thief then walked out of the room and led Raven back to Starfire, where the girl was still looking to her sister worriedly. Star? Raven said and the red hat yelled, then looked to her violet-haired friend. Yes, friend Raven. Starfire asked and her friend sighed. We need to head home. She said and Starfire looked back to Blackfire. Can I return to see my sister tomorrow? Starfire pleaded and Raven looked to Jinx's side. Fine. She allowed and then grabbed Raven's cloak. Then we're having out talk tomorrow. Jinx said simply and Raven nodded her head slowly, then walked over to Starfire, who was far too worried to comment on what just happened, as Raven spread her cloak over herself and Starfire, both vanishing as she did. Now then Temp. Jinx growled and Naruto muttered a brief "oh shit" in his head. However, a loud banging at their door alerted them to something else, and they all went to check it. Opening the front door of the base they were surprised to see one Billy Numerous. Billy was strange. He wore a full red suit with a black division sign on a circular white field at his chest, a black belt with red gloves and boots that had black trim and soles, and a pair of black goggles over his eyes with black pads on his ears to hold them on tightly over his red cowl. However, at the moment the boy was panting and breathing heavily, dozens of cuts over his suit with blood seeping through, his goggles partly broken to show one of his bright green eyes. Holy shit. Billy, what the hell happened to you? Gizmo called out with Seymour rushing to help Billy to his feet. Gotham, trouble in Gotham, Billy need help. Billy said and Naruto looked to Jinx who shrugged. You're Billy moron. Gizmo shouted at the southern metahuman, and Billy shook his head no rapidly. I'm a clone, Billy, trapped in Gotham. The clone panted out, and then looked to Naruto with white eyes. Help, Joker, was all he managed to get out before his body shimmered then vanished altogether and Naruto frowned darkly. The Joker. Shit, Billy really got himself in deep this time. Gizmo said with Jinx nodding her head in agreement before they saw Naruto crossing his arms. Yeah, and I'm going to go get him out of it. Naruto said and was grabbed by a wide-eyed Jinx. Are you completely out of your mind? This is the fucking Joker, not your run-of-the-mill villain. Jinx said loudly and Naruto took hold of her wrists and pulled her hands from his suit. Billy needs help. I'm not going to let him get totaled, just because of who's got a hold of him. I'll be fine. Naruto said simply then looked to Gizmo. I need a ride. He stated in Gizmo's side, before pulling some keys out of his pocket and tossing them to the blonde thief. I was working on some new vehicles with the junk in the junkyard. Yours is outside hidden in the dumpster. He stated and Naruto raised a brow, before ignoring that and walking out of the base, and over to the dumpster, Jinx following him. You shouldn't be doing this. She stated and Naruto frowned. I can't let someone I know get hurt. Billy was a decent guy in the hive, and I won't let this Joker character kill him. Naruto stated flatly and Jinx grit her teeth. Joker is not someone you should be messing with, Temp. Let alone should you be heading for Gotham of all places. Jinx stated while Naruto pushed a button on the keyring he got from Gizmo, the dumpster opening to show his ride. It was an all-black motorcycle with a jagged design reminiscent of Robin's own bike. The front wheel was smaller than the one in back, while both were half covered by the bike's frame, with a black screen at the front with a red X over the sides of each wheel, and a large one on the front. The handles were non-existent, instead having holes as though to put his arms into them with similar holes for his legs near the back. I probably shouldn't go, but this is a friend of ours. Naruto reminded and Jinx felt like pulling her hair out. The blonde ignored this as he hopped onto the bike, pushing his arms and legs into the holes, and then ducked as a field came over his head, and then shifted out over his sides like armor. Giz, I don't know how you do it, but this is really sweet. Naruto thought then felt around in the bike and found it was linking with his helmet, a sort of tutorial coming up. Tempest, be careful. Jinx finally said and Naruto nodded once, before activating the bike and speeding off down the streets of Jumpin' towards Gotham. Ravager sat and watched as Naruto left Tartarus's HQ with a smirk, before leaning back in her seat and replaying what she had seen the day before. She chuckled lightly seeing the Horatian technique, while storing it into the ever-growing list of powers and techniques at his disposal. Capable of bending wind and lightning to his whims, moving at the speed of light, shape-shift, and multiplying himself 1,000-fold. He's more intriguing than I ever imagined. Ravager said to herself while Wintergreen nodded his head from behind. Madam, we have no way of monitoring him in Gotham without the Batman noticing us. He then said, and Ravager frowned to herself. True, I'll just have to plan for another test. Ravager mused then brought up her files on Sasuke and smirked. Perhaps it's time I moved another pawn into place, and draw out the boy's full power. Ravager mused to herself with a smirk on her lips. Is it time? A deep voice questions in shadow. No, he is still not ready. Another comes as a bony hand reaches out of the earth it has been imprisoned and starts to glow a fiery red. How much longer? I cannot stand this prison for much more time, the first voice demands, then exclaims loudly, a familiar pair of blood-red eyes shining in the darkness. Patience, my friend, I have waited thousands of years for this, you can stand to wait half a year. The second voice came, and a growl from the first voice was his only reply, while the bony fingers began to curl and uncurl slowly. Soon, we shall both have our freedom, and then. The second voice started, only to leave off as a jagged S-shaped seal appeared next to the two eyes, four brightly glowing red eyes opening in darkness as a grin split under the first eyes. The world of mortals shall feel our wrath. The double-eyed beast said with a laugh as the four-eyed being chuckled darkly. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification, and also check out the other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.